Hello there and welcome. It's Friday and that always feels like a wonderful thing. So, how often have you found yourself in something that feels like an argument or a heated discussion or even just a disagreement? And you're busy listening intently to what the person says, only to actually jump with a reply as soon as they finish their words, or maybe they haven't even finished speaking. If you do that, it's completely normal. I think most of us do that. And there is, in fact, nothing wrong with you if that is what happens. The thing is just that it is not going to get you such great results in relationships and in difficult conversations. Now, when we're in a relationship with anybody, it's an intimate partner, a boss, a colleague, a family member, a friend, those difficult conversations come up everywhere in life. So we need to be able to handle them with wisdom and in the best way possible to make the relationship better instead of worse. The thing is that every single human being on earth wants to feel heard and understood. And that is true for you, for me, for family members, for friends, for even for our unpleasant boss. That is true for our enemies. And when we are unable to do that by jumping in with a reply very, very quickly, what happens is, well, let's do this instead of me telling you what happens. Think back to the last time that you had an uncomfortable disagreement or an argument, and you were just trying to explain your point of view, and the other person almost brushed you aside, or they jumped in very, very quickly with a defense or a justification, or making you wrong in some kind of way. Just give it a little thought, think back to that situation, or even imagine it with the words I just said, and just feel into what that's like. It doesn't really feel great, does it? The word dismissed comes up for me when that happens. If somebody else dismisses our point of view or our feelings or our thoughts, and in that moment, what happens for you? Isn't it true that there's a little part of, maybe even a big part of you, that feels really annoyed, maybe pretty angry, frustrated, maybe even very sad? Just that word dismissed keeps coming up for me. And when we feel all those things, it's very easy for us to go into defense mode. He just made me wrong, and now I have to explain or justify or defend my position, my point of view, and why I needed to do that thing exactly. And so on this argument goes. And this person will now, on the opposite side of you, probably feel attacked, criticized, or blamed. And then they need to jump into defense as soon as you've spoken. And on it goes. And then nothing gets resolved. And a week later, we go back to the same old argument that we are now so tired of. And not one of the people can hear the other. And that's exactly where impasses happen, where people just go, oh, this is impossible, this relationship is not working. Where in fact, it's not the relationships that may be not working, it's the communication, the part of that piece where we can stand still, pause, and just hear each other and understand each other and have empathy and understanding for the other point of view. So there are two things at play in this kind of conversation. The one is safety, and the next one is our triggers. And safety is such an important thing for us in a difficult conversation, that we as human beings need to be able to feel safe to say our thoughts and feelings in order to come out with the truth. if we learned as children that it's not safe to speak the truth, and we got a hiding or a very angry reply or some anger, scary anger from a parent when we told the truth, it's less likely that we're going to be able to speak the truth in relationships. And if we are in a relationship right now where it's not safe to tell the truth because the other person keeps criticizing, blaming, judging, or rejecting us, or giving us awful kind of responses, then it is going to be very hard to speak that truth. And in the same way, if you don't make it safe for the other person to tell you the truth, guess what? They're not going to. And it's going to be hard for them to hear you because they keep feeling afraid of that angry response, or the angry, or the loud words, or the feeling that you are judging, criticizing, or blaming them. So a big part of having an effective conversation about difficult topics is creating safety, a safe container, both parties, so that they know they can speak their truth, because their truth may not be the same as our truth, and we both need to be able to speak our truth in this conversation, otherwise it goes nowhere. So we need a safe container to give both parties the feeling that they will have a chance to be heard, without being interrupted, and that they can speak their full truth and have the sense that the other person actually is hearing them without just listening to reply. So that's the one part we need to be able to work with. And if you should be interested in learning the skill and the method to do that, a colleague of mine, Alison Gittelson, and I, about 3 or 4 times a year, teach a course on how to do that, called How to Have a Difficult Conversation with Courage. And so you can look it up on my website, savvyselfgrowth.com. There's usually some new dates there. And then the other thing that we all need to be very, very cognizant and aware of is our triggers. So we all have triggers around feeling blamed, criticized, judged, made wrong. And the moment we feel that somebody else is doing that to us, we jump right into the feeling that we had perhaps as a child, where parents were trying to teach us how to be in the world, and they did criticize us a lot. They did tell us a lot that we're doing things wrong. They did blame us for things. They did say it's your fault. And if that was very scary or very unpleasant for us, we have carried that with us. We haven't really let it go. And now when somebody else does it, even to us as an adult, it takes us right back into that triggered space where we feel small and like a child. And the only thing we have at our disposal is to defend, to defend or justify or explain ourselves. I mean, can you imagine what it's like to be a 6-year-old child with a parent saying you did this wrong, and the little child just stands there, and the only thing they can think is, well, I did it because. Or a parent that says, explain yourself, young lady. Well, that's what we learn to do. We learn to explain ourselves when we did something wrong. So again, I just want to say that there's nothing wrong with you if this kind of thing happens for you. And it doesn't have to stay that way. I think that's what I really want to just bring home today, is we can work on our triggers in such a way that we can minimize those triggers so that we don't feel so instantly ready to defend ourselves. Because when that defense reaction jumps up, there is no way that we're really hearing the other person's point of view. We jump instantly into defense mode, and we cannot in that moment have empathy for the other person's point of view because we feel so attacked, blamed, judged, and criticized. And when we feel criticized and judged, there is a part of our brain called the amygdala that is triggered, that says it's not safe here. And you see, it goes right back to safety. When we don't feel safe, There is no way that we would want to stay in the situation to try and resolve it, because all our body and brain is screaming is get out of the situation by fighting or fleeing. And in that kind of environment, in that kind of mode, no solution is usually very easy or even possible. So what I'd love to do now is just to go through a few rounds of tapping to help you perhaps decrease some of that feeling like you're not safe or you're being blamed or criticized, and therefore you jump into defense mode and justifying and replying to the other person very quickly instead of hearing them out and giving them the sense that they've been heard. When we can hear the other person and just be with their response and be with their emotions, that is in itself a very healing space for the other person. And there's not going to be very much more attack and comeback when they feel that we've really heard and understood them. And that becomes possible when we feel less likely to defend ourselves. So let's work on that a little bit with some few rounds of EFT. Just going down to my notes so I can see what I was planning. Okay. So think back maybe to a previous situation where you did defend yourself very quickly or listened to reply instead of listen to give the other person just a chance to be heard. And think about that feeling that arises in you that's maybe just like an instant reaction, like I need to defend myself here because they're not understanding me. So just think of that feeling of defensiveness that jumps up so quickly, and we're going to work with that a little bit. So tapping on the side of the hand and say, even though I jump instantly to defense mode, I can love and accept myself anyway, and I choose to feel safe. Even though it's so easy for me to jump into defense mode, and I want to reply and defend myself instead of just hear them out. I can love and accept myself anyway, and I choose to feel safe. And even though I jump so quickly into reply mode, and I want to defend myself because I feel made wrong and I feel criticized. That's why it happens. I can love and accept myself anyway, and I choose to feel safe. And then we're going to just tap through all the points, so starting on the eyebrow point. This feeling of defensiveness that jumps up so quickly. I feel instantly ready to defend myself. When they talk to me like that, I feel criticized. I feel blamed. I feel attacked. And of course, that's not a very safe place for me. Another arm. And then I jump into defense mode. And that's just a normal thing for any human being to feel. And I also know that that doesn't get me such great results. Because when I just defend myself like that, the other person doesn't feel heard either. And when they don't feel heard, and I just jump in with my reply or my defense, they might do the same thing. And then we go round and round in this argument, each one trying to prove our point to the other, how right we are and how wrong they are. And that doesn't get us anywhere. Oh, just had a lovely release. I wonder if you can feel the same. So, I feel so defensive, and that's just what happens for me. I really feel defensive very quickly. Maybe I was made wrong a lot as a child. Maybe I had a really critical parent who kept making me wrong. All those times in the past that I was criticized, and I actually did have to jump to my own defense, or else maybe I got a hiding or I got a shouting at, and that wasn't comfortable at all. So let's just take a pause. So take a nice deep breath in. Just let it out like a big sigh. And then check in again with your own feeling when you think about a situation where you are in an argument, where somebody tries to say something and you feel defensive immediately and feel like you have to defend or justify or explain your position. Just feel into that. If it's come down for you a little bit, marvelous. If it hasn't, maybe that we may need to be more specific with your unique situation. That's very common. And what we're going to do now is just carry on a little bit with some more tapping, and then I'll bring in a little bit of positive choices about how we can choose to be instead, all in aid of making our communication with our loved ones, and maybe even not so loved ones, a little bit more effective, a little bit more efficient, and kinder. I believe that it is so important to bring kindness into our relationships, into the world, because there is a lot of people carrying a lot of heavy things, and the kinder we can be, the more people respond to that as well. So 1 or 2 more rounds are starting on the side of the hand. Even though I often listen to reply, and then I jump in with my defenses without giving the other person a chance to feel heard, I can love and accept myself anyway, and I choose to feel safe. Even though I feel hurt and criticized in these types of conversations very easily, and then I jump in to defend myself instead of really hearing the other person. I can love and accept myself anyway, and I still choose to feel safe. Even though sometimes it doesn't feel safe, because these types of situations remind me of other times that I truly wasn't safe. Maybe as a child, maybe as an adult. There are those times. I can choose to feel safe now, and I can love and accept myself, even though I jump into reply. I jump into reply instead of really hearing them and having empathy for their point of view. And I do that for good reasons. And maybe there's a way that I can start changing that gradually. There were times in the past that I was really criticized and felt blamed and made wrong and attacked. And I did have to defend myself, and that is the truth. That is my truth. And maybe there's a way that I can start remembering that those events are in the past. And maybe I can start processing that in a way that I can start feeling safe. And that is exactly, by the way, what we are doing now. With the tapping, we are processing some of those past times that leave some energetic scars in our psyche, so to speak. So maybe there's a way that I can start feeling safe. I'd love to believe that there's a way that I can hear the other person out and help them to feel heard, so that they don't have to just listen to me with jumping in with a reply, a defensive reply. So I choose to start seeing if it's possible for me to really hear them. I choose to start feeling safe in these situations. Maybe I can choose to stay surprisingly calm. That would be new for me. And maybe that could be an amazing choice. Maybe I can choose to have empathy for their point of view and for their feelings. Maybe I can have empathy for the way they've been feeling and trying to get their point across to me in the same way that I've been trying to get my point across to them. Maybe if I can just take a nice deep breath during that conversation and really try and put myself in their shoes. Try and imagine what it's like for them to live with their feelings or the problem that they've had and they've been trying to explain to me. Maybe if I just pause there a little bit and know that this person also has hurts, has also been criticized in the past and felt rejected and made wrong and accused and attacked. So maybe if we can both come from that place, then maybe it needs to start with me. And I'm busy working on my triggers right now. And when my triggers are less, that's a really great place to start building effective communication. Because when I can show the person that they are safe in my space, I create a safe space for them, they can start telling me their truth and we can start building more intimacy and trust from that place. And take another nice, lovely deep breath in and out like a big sigh. So I invite you, if this is a difficult topic for you, you can listen to this video again a few times and do more tapping with this. You may find as you do the tapping that some past events pop up for you where you were indeed not feeling safe, where you were attacked, where somebody shouted and screamed at you, where you even felt physically threatened perhaps. So if that happens, I want to encourage you to find somebody, a practitioner or somebody for EFT that you can work with to help you resolve those past events, because if our triggers of the past are not resolved, they absolutely do keep jumping up at the most inopportune times, the most uncomfortable times possible, and they make us act in ways that we actually think, now, why the heck did I do that? It causes knee-jerk reactions. It causes automatic reactions for us that we do not have a say in. And that's the thing, is the parts of our brain that are trying to keep us safe react in milliseconds, milliseconds. And there is no chance for our rational, logical brain to say, let me take a deep breath in before I respond. It just doesn't happen that way. So we can have all the most wonderful skills and methods in the world to handle these difficult conversations. But if our limbic brain is triggered, it's not going to be easy for us to implement those methods and skills and so on. So this is very much a case of needing to come at it from both angles. Yes, we do need the skills. We need to know how to create that safe container and how to have a conversation in the right way with very practical ways. But if we are triggered, it's just not going to be easy to do that. So we need to work on our own triggers in life in order to resolve these knee-jerk automatic reactions that make it uncomfortable and difficult to build relationships full of trust and compassion and empathy for each other's point of view. So I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions around difficult conversations or about how to tap for these triggers from the past, please feel free to pop me a message or put a comment in at the bottom of the video. I'd love to hear from you. This is one of my topics that I started exploring late in life, and I am really, really looking forward to supporting you because it's been a difficult one for me, and I have a lot of empathy and compassion if this is difficult for you as well. Have an awesome Friday, a lovely weekend, and I look forward to hearing from you.